Hey YouTube, it's Kel. I hope that this video finds you well. I thought I would pop on today to talk about one of probably the most important topics that I ever discuss in therapy. And it is because a lot of people they've heard this phrase a lot, but maybe don't really have never taken the time to really think about exactly what coping skills are. We are going to talk about coping skills today. And I know before I went into graduate school for psychology, I don't think I had ever heard the term coping skills, or if I did, I didn't really think about the importance of them. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have not taken a ton of time to prepare this video. So it might be all over the place, but I've done so many groups and so many therapy sessions talking about the importance of coping skills that I feel pretty confident in my ability to wing it. So we're going to see how that goes. So first of all, what we are going to talk about is there is a difference between coping and self-care. They can definitely overlap. I'm going to put up a list of what I call coping and self-care skills, probably attached to this video, to give you guys some options as to things you can try to do both coping and self-care. Technically, they are a little bit different, but I definitely think they overlap, right? Because coping is a form of self-care and self-care is a form of coping. So they definitely overlap, but they also are kind of different. I would define them a little bit differently too. So, okay, so let's first talk about coping skills, what they are. Well, to understand what a coping skill is, you have to kind of understand what the point of it is. And I did, the only thing I really prepared was looking up a couple things that I feel like is important to understand. You know, if you are looking for a coping skill, you need to understand what coping is and also like, what are you coping from, right? So typically, coping is a way to manage your emotional response in your body, channel the energy into a more productive way instead of just, reacting or whatever, instead of just letting that build up in your body, instead of doing some impulsive. So even like a dysfunctional coping skill is still a coping skill. So like, for instance, some people drink alcohol or like become addicted because they're looking for a dysfunctional way to cope with their problems. So even that is a coping mechanism for like depression, anxiety, and we don't really look at it. It's not functional. I don't recommend it. Not recommending that as a coping skill today, but that's how it starts off for people, and that's why they get addicted, is because, right, they're looking for a way to cope with overwhelming emotions, overwhelming stress, and they don't know, they've never been taught that there are other ways that they can cope. There's a lot of other things they can do to get that feeling of tension, the feeling of stress, the feeling of depression, the feeling of anxiety out of their body. And so therefore, if they only know one way, they're going to go to that one, right? So coping skills are, to me, one of the biggest gifts you can give to yourself is to broaden your list of coping skills that work for you. So one of the things I do in therapy, and like I said, I will probably attach it to this video, is I give my clients an actual list of coping skills. It's like a couple pages. And excuse me, it has all sorts of things that you can do. And so this gets into what is a coping skill. It's a way to reduce uncomfortable or undesirable feelings in your body. So I actually did look it up, what the definition of a coping skill is, and I'll tell you what it said. It said it's a tool or action that helps people manage stress, regulate emotions, and face challenges in a healthy way. So that is a healthy, effective coping skill. Okay, so now what essentially you need to understand, okay, well, what am I coping from? A lot of times people are coping from stress or what are considered negative emotions in their body. So if you want to alter an emotional state, a lot of times, okay, I'm gonna get a little nerdy. Sometimes I'll go off on little tangents, but like stress, for instance, is very much held in the body. It's a part of a sympathetic nervous system response. You sense that there's either a threat or, you know, something frightening, or there's tension. It creates this muscle tension in your body. Your amygdala has possibly gone off. And it creates this muscle tension because way back in our primitive days, it would have prepared us to go, you know, fight a lion or go, you know, run through the jungle if we had to or whatever. But these days, we don't get that energy out of our body when we perceive stress the way that we used to. And so a lot of times we are left with that stress that we accrue throughout our life just in our body. It's just left there. Like muscle tension has accrued. We're left with, you know, a lot of times it's like, you know, everybody feels it differently in their body. Sometimes it's muscle tension in your neck and your shoulders. You know, it can be headaches. It can be chest pain. It can be, you know, clenched fists. It can be you feel a nervous stomach, or, you know, I mean, there's tons of ways you can feel it in your body. But the point is that stress stays in the body until you get it out of the body. If you don't get it out, there's tons of ways you can get it out, which again, we'll discuss through the coping skills list. But if you don't get it out, it can do harmful things. It can turn, you know, on you by staying in your body. And one of the best things you can do for yourself is figure out ways to get all of that energy out of your body. Sorry, my cough is not great today. So, okay. So a coping skill is a way. Now, one of the ways I like to describe a coping skill to people, because people will say, oh, I tried a coping skill and it didn't work for me. Now, that is true. A lot of times, for instance, I'll give you an example. Deep breathing exercises. For some people, they absolutely love them and it totally works as a coping skill. For some people, deep breathing is like doing absolutely nothing. And they're like, that does not work for me in the slightest. I can't, you know, if I'm stressed, that does absolutely nothing for me. So when I give a list out, I always say you have to try each one of these because they are different for everybody. Just because someone tells you to do deep breathing or, you know, box breathing or whatever, you know, does not mean that's going to work for you. It doesn't, you know, they don't work for everybody the same way. What's really important is that you experiment with each coping skill, potential coping skill, and you ask yourself, okay, I'm stressed, and after I do this coping skill, do I feel less stressed? That is going to be the important thing. So what I ask my clients to do when they feel like they want to experiment with a coping skill is to rate their negative feeling, whatever it is, on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is like the most you could feel that uncomfortable feeling, and 1 is the least you could feel that uncomfortable feeling. So let's just say you are have had a hard day at work. And you come home and you just accumulated, I don't know, a lot of like negative customer crap or something. And you just, you know, had to kind of like eat it all day. And you felt like, or your boss was in a bad mood or, you know, whatever. And you just felt like you could just sense in your body, you're just accumulating this like, you know, all day. So you get home, and if you were to rate your feelings on a scale of 1 to 10, you would say, I am feeling either stressed or anxious. Let's say stressed at a scale of 7, okay? Now, some people might be like, man, 7's not that bad. Some people might be like, 7's horrible. So the point is that one coping skill will typically drop you down, like on a scale of 1 to 10 in your feelings, depending on how long you do it, of course, but one coping skill is not going to make you go from a 7 to 0. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, unless, now, sometimes if I stay in the jacuzzi long enough, I will get out and feel no stress. So it really, again, depends on the coping skills. Sometimes, like for me, an Epsom salt bath, I'll explain kind of some of my coping skills, and they work like magic. And like, sometimes when I get out, I'm like, I feel no stress at all. But like, also, sometimes some coping skills work less well than others, you know what I mean? Like, so some of them might take you from a 7 on that scale, 1 to 10, down to like a 5. And then at that 5 point, you're like, you know what? I probably should do another one. Maybe I'll watch something funny, or to try to like, you know, laugh a little and like alter my mood that way and kind of de-stress that way. Or maybe I'll, you know, I don't recommend eating for a lot of people because, you know, a lot of people have issues with eating. But if you don't have issues with any kind of like rewards, little rewards with eating. You can do like, oh, I'll give myself like a piece of chocolate or a piece of, or like we'll do pasta tonight or whatever your like reward is. So my point is that sometimes you will go from a 7 down to like 1 or 2 if you're lucky. Sometimes you'll go to a 7 down to a 5 and need to do another coping skill, like go take a hot shower. And then like do another one, if you've had like a really hard day. So just because one doesn't work for you, kind of check in with yourself and say like, am I where I want to be? No, maybe I need to do another one, So that's why it's really important to have a list, because then you can kind of go from one to the other or another, if you have, I understand you need to have a certain period of time. So this is only really if you struggle with like, I know like busy parents and stuff, they have to wait until nighttime. So again, this is why it's important to know what yours are, because then you can effectively de-stress. So that is what I know for me. Like some of my favorite coping skills are like, if I can sit in a jacuzzi, that's like, I will go from whatever stress I was feeling to, if I stay in it long enough, so much of the body tension leaves. Or if I get a massage, or if I, a hot shower, hot bath. So like hot water works really well for me. I know it vasodilates. I know that it gets that muscle tension kind of moving throughout my body. Exercise is one of the most powerful coping skills that I have ever seen in my practice. So taking walks or like running and working out, or if you can't run, just like, doing whatever you can. So a lot of times, again, that's getting that energy out of you. So, journaling or venting, there's so many different things, but again, you have to figure out maybe working. So again, there's a difference between coping and kind of getting that energy out of you. And then, what I would call, I look at self-care as different. We'll get into that in a different video, but it's basically self-care is more like, I consider it like ways to nurture your best well-being and give yourself like tender loving care, like give yourself care. And that can include other things like boundaries or other things like, giving yourself attention or, just nurture in a lot of ways. Now, again, they overlap a lot. So I'm definitely not saying they're very distinct, but they definitely overlap a lot. But when I think of coping, I think of how to de-stress or how to take, if you're really depressed on that, basically, how do I take a couple points off of whatever negative feeling scale I'm feeling and bump them up a little bit? So, again, I'm going to put them a list probably in the details box that I attached to this video. But, it's crucial that you know what yours are if you want to be pleasant to be around. People who don't know how to cope or self-regulate, can just, I feel bad for them because they're just left, I think, feeling powerless over their emotions a lot. But when you start to understand that you do have ways to change your own mood that are not even dependent on other human beings, that really are, ways that you can go by yourself and do things like, watch a funny video, there's a ton of them. Like I said, I'll list. So what you should do is with the list that I put in the box, if you can print it out or whatever you do, circle the ones that seem interesting to you that you really feel like could work. If you've tried breathing and it doesn't work for you, don't do that one. You know what I mean? There's enough there to try, and then slowly start crossing them off. And when you do, ask yourself before you do the coping skill, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling, and then I would put a number to it. Am I feeling stress at an 8? And then ask yourself when you get back, what am I feeling? Am I feeling stress at a 5? And if you're really good about it, you can write those numbers down in that list so that you can start to see what are your most effective coping skills. Because again, the longer you have of an effective list to go to, the less likely you're going to lean on one too heavily. The more options you'll have in any place you can go, like you can try to, you can go for a walk typically, like you'll just know, okay, I have literally 20 things I could choose from. Which one is available to me right now, or which ones are available to me right now. So this is crucial, because if people could learn how to cope effectively, so many of society's problems would be, I wouldn't say resolved, but like minimized. I mean, it is, when you think of just the amount of problems that really truly our society, that comes from our society not knowing how to cope effectively, it is like stunning. So I hope one day we will actually get it into schools, basic things like this, like basic mental health curriculum, not like how do you deal with trauma or like dealing with someone's trauma in school, but like more like how do I cope effectively? How do I communicate with a partner? Like very easy, basic communication skills, things like that, things that I'm trying to do my videos on, because I just feel like in general, especially in previous generations, we were not educated properly about these things. And yet, if we started to really get aware of how to take care of ourselves better, cope more effectively, communicate more effectively, so many of society's problems would get better. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And at the very least, hopefully we could just be a little more kind to each other and kind to ourselves. So again, I just want to pop on. I will try to attach that list, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are, and I'm sending some love and hugs, and I will see you next time.